What's up, everyone? Today, we're doing something absolutely insane. We're going on a journey through time to find the richest person who has ever lived. I'm not talking about the billionaires you see on the news today. No, we're talking about historical figures. Their wealth was so massive, it's almost impossible to even comprehend. We spent months researching, working with historians and economists, crunching the numbers and adjusting for inflation. To create the ultimate list, these fortunes could literally change the world multiple times over. You think $1 billion is a lot? Wait until you hear these numbers. Fortunes that could buy entire countries. The number one spot had so much gold. On a trip, he gave away so much of it. He crashed the economy of an entire region for over a decade. Not a joke. He literally broke the economy with his generosity. This isn't just a list, it's extreme wealth in human history. By the end, your idea of rich will be shattered. Smash that subscribe button. Alright, kicking off our list at number 5, we have a name you might not know, but trust me, his story is wild. We're talking about Mir Osman Ali Khan, the last ruler, or Nizam, of Hyderabad in India. Imagine having so much money that you use a 185-carat diamond the size of an ostrich egg as a paperweight. That's exactly what this guy did. His net worth, adjusted for today's money, is estimated to be around $230 billion. That puts him right up there with the richest people alive today. But this was back in the early 20th century. His wealth wasn't from a tech company or stocks. It came from owning a literal kingdom. Hyderabad was a princely state, and he controlled its vast revenues. A huge part of his fortune came from the legendary Golconda mines, which were the world's only supplier of diamonds for centuries. So while other people were buying diamonds, this guy literally owned the diamond factory for the entire planet. He had a personal collection of jewels that was so insane, it needed its own museum. We're talking about pearls that could pave a city street, emeralds the size of your fist. The stories about his wealth are just on another level. He had his own private army, his own currency, and a fleet of Rolls-Royces. But here's the crazy part. Despite being one of the richest men in the world, he was famously frugal in his personal life. He would reportedly knit his own socks and eat off a simple tin plate. He had all this unimaginable wealth, a literal mountain of gold and jewels, but lived like a common man. It's a paradox that's hard to wrap your head around. At its peak, his treasury was said to hold over $100 million in gold and silver bullion and another $400 million in jewels. The Jacob diamond, the one he used as a paperweight, is worth nearly $100 million alone. The sheer casualness of that level of wealth is something we just don't see anymore. Now, let's move on to number 4, a guy who built an empire not from jewels, but from steel. This is a classic rags to riches story, but on a scale that has rarely been repeated. We're talking about Andrew Carnegie. His adjusted net worth? A whopping $310 billion. He didn't inherit a kingdom. He built one from the ground up, starting as a poor Scottish immigrant. He started working in a factory at 13, then as a telegraph messenger, and he just kept climbing. He was smart, ambitious, and saw the future. He realized that steel was going to be the backbone of America. Railroads, bridges, skyscrapers. He founded Carnegie Steel Company and used revolutionary technology and ruthless business tactics to dominate the market. He controlled every single step of the process, from the iron ore mines to the steel mills to the transportation. This was called vertical integration, and it allowed him to cut costs and crush his competition. At its peak, his company was producing more steel than the entire United Kingdom. Let that sink in. One man's company was outproducing an entire industrial empire. In 1901, he did something unprecedented. He sold his company to the banker J.P. Morgan for $480 million. In today's money, that single transaction would be worth over $15 billion, making it the largest business deal in history at the time. Carnegie's personal share catapulted his net worth into the stratosphere. He became one of the richest men in the world overnight from a single signature. But what he did next is just as famous as how he made his money. Carnegie believed that the wealthy had a duty to give back to society. He wrote an essay called The Gospel of Wealth, where he argued that it was a disgrace to die rich. He spent the last years of his life giving away his fortune, funding over 3,000 public libraries, creating universities, and supporting scientific research. He gave away about 90% of his wealth, over $280 billion today. He didn't just build an empire, he gave it away. Coming in at number 3 is a name that might be the most powerful person you've never heard of. Forget presidents and kings. This guy was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. His name was Jacob Fugger. In the 1500s, he was basically the world's bank. His inflation-adjusted net worth is estimated to be around $400 billion. That's an insane amount of money for any era, but especially for Renaissance Europe. Fugger wasn't a king, he was a banker and a merchant from Augsburg, Germany, but his influence was arguably greater than any monarch of his time. His family's business was in textiles and trade. Jakob took it to a whole new level by getting into mining and finance. He secured monopolies on copper and silver mining throughout Europe, which gave him a massive and steady stream of income. He essentially controlled the supply of the most important metals of the age. Kings and emperors needed money to fund their wars and empires. And who did they turn to? Jakob Fugger. He was the lender of last resort for the most powerful people in the world. He financed the election of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. When the Pope needed money to build St. Peter's Basilica, Fugger's bank was involved. He wasn't just rich, he was a kingmaker. His financial network was a precursor to modern global banking. He had agents in every major city, Venice, Lisbon, gathering intelligence and making deals. He knew about political shifts and market changes before anyone else. He was playing a real-life game of civilization, moving money and resources around the map. His personal wealth equaled 2% of Europe's GDP, one man holding 2% of a continent's economy. When a king defaulted, Fugger could threaten to cut off armies or back rivals. He once reminded Charles V that without Fugger's money, he wouldn't be emperor. That's the confidence of a $400 billion fortune. He also created the Fuggerei, rent still 1 Rhenish guilder a year, about 88 euro cents. A master of capitalism who controlled popes and emperors and left social good behind. Now, let's jump forward a few centuries to number 2, John D. Rockefeller. If Jacob Fugger wrote the book on banking, Rockefeller wrote the book on monopolies. His peak net worth, adjusted for inflation, is also estimated to be around $400 billion. But while Fugger dealt with kings, Rockefeller dealt with oil. He founded Standard Oil in 1870. At its peak, Standard Oil controlled 90% of all oil refineries and pipelines. 90%. If you used kerosene for your lamp or lubricant for a machine, you were almost certainly buying it from Rockefeller. He bought out competitors at low prices, and if they refused, he used his power to drive them out of business. He made secret deals with railroads to get cheaper shipping than rivals. He was the master of horizontal integration. Control the crucial steps so everyone plays by your rules. At his peak, his fortune exceeded 2% of US GDP. Today, that would be over $500 billion. He was America's first billionaire. The government broke up Standard Oil in 1911, and the breakup made him even richer as shares skyrocketed. Just like Carnegie, Rockefeller became one of the greatest philanthropists in history. He funded medicine, education, and scientific research. He gave away more than $500 million in his lifetime, tens of billions today. He went from one of the most hated men in America for his business practices to one of the most celebrated for his charity. But even Rockefeller doesn't touch number 1. And now, The moment you've all been waiting for. The number one wealthiest person in all of human history. This person's wealth was so extreme, so vast, that it's almost impossible to put an accurate number on it. Historians and economists struggle, but the most common estimate for his inflation-adjusted net worth is 400 billion? 500 billion? No. It's often described as indescribable. We're going with the most cited figure, a net worth so high it breaks our scale. Mansa Musa, the 10th Mansa, emperor of the Mali Empire in the 14th century. His kingdom was the world's largest producer of gold. Gold was in extremely high demand across Europe and the Middle East. The Mali Empire controlled vast gold mines. Musa had nearly unlimited access to gold, not a few bars, but entire mountains of it. Almost half of the old world's gold came from Mali, and as emperor, it all belonged to him. The event that cemented his legend, his Hajj to Mecca in 1324. This wasn't a simple trip. It was a procession of epic proportions. His caravan reportedly stretched as far as the eye could see. It included 60,000 men, all wearing fine silk, including 12,000 slaves, each carrying a 4-pound gold bar. There were 80 camels, each loaded with 5,300 pounds of gold dust, a mobile city of gold across the desert. When they passed through Cairo, Alexandria, Medina, Mansa Musa gave away gold to everyone, to the poor, in the markets, to local dignitaries. He single-handedly flooded the market with gold. The price of gold plummeted. Mass inflation followed, wrecking the Mediterranean economy for more than a decade. He literally broke the economy because he was too rich and too generous. Accounts say Cairo's gold value stayed depressed for 12 years. He even had to borrow money at high interest to return home because he'd given his gold away. After his Hajj, the world noticed. European mapmakers added Mali, often showing Mansa Musa on a golden throne. He used his wealth to build mosques, universities, libraries. Timbuktu became a legendary center of learning. How do you price a resource when you own most of the supply? It's like pricing the air. His fortune wasn't a number, it was a force. He didn't just play the game, he owned the board. Rockefeller controlled 90% of oil. Mansa Musa controlled nearly 50% of the world's gold. The scale is mind-bending. He could have bought kingdoms with the gold on one trip. Throughout history, there have been pockets of wealth that defy comparison. He wasn't a billionaire or a trillionaire. He was in a category of his own. From the diamond-hoarding Nizam, to steel magnate Carnegie, to banker Fugger, to oil baron Rockefeller, all unimaginably wealthy. None come close to the man who could crash economies by being generous. Mansa Musa stands at the top of the pyramid of wealth, a golden king as vast as the Sahara. His legacy testifies to wealth outside Europe and powerful African kingdoms. It's a story not told enough, but it's the ultimate story of wealth. The scale, impact, and legend make Mansa Musa the richest human who ever lived. It's not even a competition. So, what did we learn? We learned that the biggest fortunes in history weren't made from tech stocks or cryptocurrency. They were built on fundamental commodities: gold, oil, steel, the power of finance itself. These figures achieved a level of economic dominance that is almost impossible today. Their wealth could build cities, fund armies, make and break kings, even destabilize regional economies. It's a scale of riches that redefines what wealthy truly means. These stories show how wealth has shaped history. Carnegie's steel built the modern world. His philanthropy continues to educate it. Fugger's banking laid the groundwork for modern finance. Mansa Musa's journey put a powerful African empire on the global stage. Each of these individuals left a legacy that goes far beyond their bank accounts. They defined their eras. I hope this video blew your mind as much as it did for me while we were researching it. Who on this list surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have even crazier videos coming. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.